What if the most celebrated, impeccably poised woman you thought you knew, the one whose life shimmered with an almost ethereal perfection, harbored a past so dark, so meticulously buried, that its mere whisper could shatter her entire gilded world? Imagine the queen of high society, whose every public appearance is a masterclass in grace and benevolence, built her empire on a foundation of secrets and shadows. Tonight, we begin to peel back the layers of illusion surrounding Ilara Vance, a woman whose name became synonymous with extraordinary wealth, impeccable taste, and an enigmatic charm that captivated everyone in her orbit. Ilara Vance was, by all accounts, the epitome of success and grace. Her philanthropic endeavors were legendary, her art collection breathtaking, and her exclusive galas the stuff of whispered legend among the global elite. She moved through the world with an effortless elegance, her smile radiant, her eyes holding a depth that many mistook for profound wisdom. She was regularly featured in glossy magazines, lauded for her business acumen, and adored for her seemingly untouched purity. Ilara's public image was a carefully curated masterpiece, an unblemished portrait of a benevolent titan, seemingly immune to the petty dramas and inevitable flaws that plague mere mortals. Her life, from the outside, appeared untouchable, a testament to what ambition, intellect, and perhaps a touch of destiny could achieve. Yet, even in the most hermetically sealed environments, tiny cracks can form. Initially, they were just whispers, barely audible above the din of champagne flutes and polite chatter. A disgruntled former personal assistant might hint at an unusual secrecy surrounding her travel documents. An obscure acquaintance from an early business venture, long since dissolved, might recall a different, harder Ilara, one less concerned with ethical niceties. These murmurs, quickly dismissed as the jealous gossip of those who couldn't reach her heights, were like faint echoes from a distant past that simply didn't align with the radiant woman dominating headlines. The narrative of her rise to power spoke of sheer brilliance and unyielding determination, but these fleeting anecdotes planted a tiny, almost imperceptible seed of doubt, a dissonant note in an otherwise perfect symphony. It was this subtle discord that caught the attention of Leo Maxwell, a young, ambitious investigative journalist with an uncanny knack for spotting the overlooked. While others swooned over Ilara's latest charitable donation or her breathtaking new yacht, Leo found himself fixated on small anomalies in her public narrative. A seemingly insignificant change in her birth year across different biographies, a vague reference to an early mentor who vanished from historical records, a gap in her educational timeline that was always glossed over. These were trivial details, easy for most to ignore, but they sparked Leo's professional curiosity, igniting a hunger for the truth that he couldn't quite explain. He had a feeling, a journalist's intuition, that beneath the polished veneer lay something far more complex. His initial forays were cautious, digging through dusty archives and obscure online databases. Then he found it. A single, seemingly insignificant detail from Ilara's early life that didn't align with her official biography. A forgotten name associated with a defunct provincial business, a year of her life unaccounted for in any official record, a strange discrepancy in a long-since digitized public registry that listed her with a completely different surname for a brief period. It was a faint, almost invisible thread, but for Leo, it was the first tangible proof that Ilara Vance's meticulously constructed history had a weak point, a potential entry into a much larger, darker tapestry. Meanwhile, in her opulent, meticulously guarded penthouse, Ilara became subtly aware of Leo's burgeoning interest. A flicker of something akin to fear, or perhaps a deep-seated unease, crossed her usually serene expression as she glanced at an article mentioning the persistent young journalist's recent inquiries into historical business dealings. It was a fleeting moment, quickly composed, but it revealed a profound truth: her perfect life was far more fragile than anyone, including her most devoted admirers, could ever imagine. The immense internal pressure to maintain her flawless image, an image built on decades of careful omissions and strategic narratives, was a constant, crushing weight. The stakes for Ilara were astronomically high, and she knew, with chilling certainty, that some secrets, once disturbed, had a way of unraveling everything. Before we delve deeper into Ilara's hidden world, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming fascinating investigations. Leo Maxwell's relentless investigation into Alara Vance intensified with each passing day. He immersed himself in dusty archives, sifting through microfiche records that predated the digital age, searching for any inconsistency, any deviation from Alara's meticulously crafted public narrative. He tracked down marginalized figures from her past, former nannies who spoke in hushed tones, disgruntled business partners who had mysteriously lost everything, and distant relatives Alara had strategically erased from her life story. These interviews were fraught with apprehension. Fear of Alara's reach was palpable in their guarded responses, but small, crucial details emerged, slowly chipping away at the bedrock of her fabricated history. Leo spent countless hours engaged in digital forensics, cross-referencing obscure databases, and analyzing metadata from old news articles. A different, darker version of Alara's rise to power began to coalesce, a stark contrast to the benevolent socialite persona she projected. The danger of his pursuit was a constant, chilling undercurrent. Alara's influence, he quickly learned, was vast and insidious. His progress, once a steady stream of small victories, began to encounter subtle obstructions. Documents he had requested from official channels mysteriously disappeared or were deemed irretrievable. Witnesses he had painstakingly cultivated suddenly became uncooperative, their voices laced with thinly veiled intimidation, their stories retracting into vague denials. He received anonymous emails containing veiled threats, warning him to cease his meddling in matters that didn't concern him, each message a stark reminder of Alara's immense power and her chilling desperation to protect her carefully guarded secrets. It was a suffocating pressure designed to halt his momentum, a clear demonstration that he had brushed too close to the truth. Meanwhile, in the gilded cage of her opulent mansion, Alara experienced an escalating wave of paranoia and anxiety. The faint whispers of Leo's inquiries reached her through her extensive network, each mention of his name a sharp barb to her meticulously cultivated calm. She found herself increasingly restless, her sleep fractured by vivid flashbacks, fragmented memories of a forgotten life, a different name, a desperate struggle that predated her current persona. She saw the faces of those she had left behind, the echoes of choices made in moments of profound ambition and survival. Her internal monologues became a tormenting loop of what-ifs and if-onlys, revealing the immense emotional toll her secret had taken over decades. The flawless veneer of her perfection began to crack, her perfectly poised smile sometimes faltering, a flicker of raw fear in her usually serene eyes. The weight of her lies was becoming unbearable, threatening to crush the very image she had so painstakingly constructed. Undeterred by the mounting obstacles, Leo pressed on, driven by an unshakable conviction that he was on the precipice of something monumental. He began to uncover a disturbing pattern: individuals from Alara's early life who had been involved in crucial, formative moments, yet had mysteriously vanished from public record or met unfortunate, sometimes suspicious, ends. He discovered an old, faded photograph, tucked away in an uncatalogued municipal archive, showing a younger Alara, her face marked by hardship, standing beside a prominent local industrialist who had died in a factory fire under questionable circumstances, mere months before Alara's own meteoric rise began. The photograph's date and location directly contradicted her official biography, and a coded entry in the industrialist's long-lost ledger explicitly referenced a final agreement with a woman using a name Leo had never heard before, a name that, with a jolt of recognition, he realized was the supposed missing year from Alara's past. These clues solidified a chilling narrative pointing towards a significant, dark event at the very genesis of her fortune. Alara was now trapped in a moral dilemma of her own making. The walls were closing in, and Leo Maxwell was the unforgiving architect. She could continue her elaborate deception, risking utter ruin, a spectacular downfall that would strip her of everything she held dear, or she could confront the truth in some way, though the path to that confrontation remained terrifyingly unclear. Her internal struggle, a relentless battle between self-preservation and a burgeoning sense of dread, highlighted the immense human cost of her ambition and the suffocating burden of her lies. The psychological impact of living a double life, of constantly guarding a monstrous secret, was now manifesting in every tremor of her hand, every haunted glance in the mirror. The tension reached a dangerous apex when Leo came perilously close to uncovering the full truth. He narrowly avoided a suspiciously accidental car collision orchestrated by one of Alara's more ruthless enforcers, a faceless man whose sudden appearance and swift disappearance left him shaken. Later, a pristine white orchid, Alara's signature flower, arrived at his apartment with a small, elegant card bearing only 2 words, "Be careful." It was a direct, albeit subtle, warning from Alara herself, a cold reminder that he was playing a game with lethal stakes. The message was clear: retreat, or face the consequences. But for Leo, retreat was no longer an option. He was too close, the truth too compelling to abandon. The truth, like a relentless tide, finally eroded Alara's carefully constructed dam. Leo, after months of relentless pursuit, stood with the irrefutable evidence. He had traced the missing years, not to a quiet sabbatical for artistic pursuits as Alara's PR claimed, but to a series of sophisticated financial maneuvers orchestrated by her in the shadow of a devastating natural disaster. While relief efforts struggled, Alara, then a fledgling but ruthlessly opportunistic junior analyst, had exploited systemic chaos, diverting aid funds through shell corporations and acquiring distressed assets at pennies on the dollar. Her initial fortune wasn't built on savvy investments but on the suffering of thousands, an elaborate scheme that left a trail of ruined lives and a surprisingly clean, untraceable ascent to power. The missing individuals weren't just vanished, they were silenced, bought off, or in some cases, tragically swept away in the disaster's aftermath, their disappearances conveniently attributed to the wider catastrophe. Leo's findings painted a chilling portrait of calculated avarice, a cold-blooded precision that turned human tragedy into personal triumph. He held in his hands authenticated documents, encrypted emails, and even a sworn affidavit from a former associate, now living in hiding, whose conscience had finally broken. The core secret was not merely a hidden past, but a monstrous betrayal, a foundation of wealth built on deceit and exploitation. This revelation didn't just reshape understanding of the Queen of Secrets, it shattered it, revealing a predatory architect beneath the benevolent facade. Armed with this evidence, Leo initiated the process of exposure. He bypassed compromised media outlets, opting for a highly respected, independent investigative news platform known for its integrity and reach. The tension was palpable as he prepared to release his findings, knowing the full weight of Alara's influence would descend upon him. Meanwhile, in her gilded cage, Alara felt the walls beginning to crack. Her usually impenetrable composure fractured under the relentless pressure. She saw Leo's ghost in every shadow, his determined eyes in every news report hinting at impending revelations. There was a moment, late one night, alone in her penthouse overlooking the city she had so effectively manipulated, when a profound realization dawned. The opulent life she had built was a gilded prison, its bars forged from fear and the constant dread of exposure. The truth, she knew, was no longer containable. The edifice of her perfect life, built on the bones of others' misfortunes, was about to crumble. The public exposure was not a slow burn, but an explosion. Leo's meticulously compiled report, delivered with unimpeachable evidence, hit like a seismic shockwave. The headlines screamed, the financial markets reeled, and the social elite, who had once courted her, recoiled in horror and disgust. Alara's empire, once unassailable, began its swift, irreversible collapse. Board members resigned en masse, corporate partners severed ties, and legal investigations launched across multiple jurisdictions. The social ostracization was immediate and brutal, the woman once revered was now reviled, her name synonymous with greed and heartlessness. Justice, though slow and arduous, had finally begun its march. Properties were seized, assets frozen, and the threat of criminal charges loomed large. In the aftermath, Alara, stripped of her carefully crafted identity, found herself utterly alone, forced to confront the true, horrifying cost of her ambition. The opulent penthouse became a cold, empty monument to her downfall. The reflections in its polished surfaces showed not the triumphant queen, but a haunted woman consumed by her monstrous past. Leo, having brought the truth to light, experienced a complex mix of vindication and weariness. The weight of his actions was immense. He had dismantled a powerful figure, but at what human cost to himself and to those caught in the crossfire? He understood that truth, while essential, was rarely simple or clean. His quest had revealed the enduring human capacity for secrets, the seductive allure of power, and the profound, often tragic, consequences of building a life on lies. It was a stark reminder that even in the most polished surfaces, shadows could hide the darkest realities, and the quest for truth, though fraught with peril, remained an indispensable pursuit. What did you think of Ilara's journey? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more untold stories, and click here to watch our next investigation into another fascinating hidden world.